Hi, so today I wanted to talk about my CELTA experience, which is the Cambridge English, uh, or it's a certificate. I just looked at the certificate then. Yeah, I have one. I have one. So yeah, that proves it's a replacement. Blew some dust off it. It's a replacement certificate, but yeah, I really did it. I had a friend who asked me like, is it worth doing? I know that you can do it in America as well. Obviously, you can do it in England. But my friend, like a lot of guys, because of what's been happening in the world, he's resigned from his job. I guess he saw the writing on the wall, and he was asking me like, do I think he should do the university diploma of English teaching, which is like I think he said it was $10,000 or something like that. It's the university we both went to, and I sort of said, well, I mean, look, it's probably not worth your money in terms of time and in terms of time and effort if it's a year long course. And I just thought, you know what? I'll talk about my CELTA experience because my CELTA experience was pretty special. I did my or unique, I guess. I did my CELTA part time at the I guess it's a side business of the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Melbourne, and it's just off a little street. I assume it's still there. And yeah, it's basically a franchise that RMIT uses to bring in some extra cash. And when you do the CELTA course, you have to apply. So I applied, and I had an interview with this lady, and I was late to the interview. I was living on my boat at the time, and she's, I guess I was, in a sense, I was technically homeless, but I was living on a little yacht. And she was like, "Why are you late? You're not taking this seriously." And she asked me a couple of grammar questions, and I was like a little bit hesitant, and I suppose because I'd been doing manual work and work like that, I just sort of felt like a little bit out of that world. So her questions kind of surprised me, and she basically said to me like, "We don't think you're suitable to do it." So I felt like really a bit depressed after that, and but I was pretty determined. Like I thought, hey, if I can do a course to drive a little boat and I can go to university, and I got a couple of good marks at university when I tried really hard, I thought, I can do this, I can do it. So I asked to have another interview, and at the next interview, I think it was about 6 months later, after that I'd studied all of this grammar, and the best book I want to recommend is Michael Swan's Practical English Usage, and I actually copied it out because after that interview, after this lady told me that I wasn't suitable, like I was just like, well, I'll show you who's not suitable, and I wrote the whole book out, like not very quickly. I did it slowly over time. So I used to go to the library and just copy it out, and yeah. And so when I had the next interview, I was like 10 minutes early, and I made sure that I was well dressed and more in that kind of, I guess, formal university or formal study world, and yeah, and they gave me a chance. I mean, I was surprised that I was refused the first time because I thought, well, if you're going to pay this money for it, then they'll just let you do it because they want the money. But yeah, and that was really the start of my troubles, because when I did the course, I wasn't living on my boat then. I mean, I still had my boat, but I was sleeping in my friend's garden. Basically, I was sleeping in a hammock, basically squatting in a sense. And so I was going to bed late, and I was living that kind of, I guess, early 20s or mid 20s lifestyle, and nothing bizarre, but I mean it was just like a little bit unstable. I wasn't living with my mum or something, and I was going to these classes, and the classes were pretty boring. I mean, I have to say, like, you're sitting there and this lady's talking to you about all these different like grammar terms, and you just have to be quiet, and it's like 2 or 3 hours. There's a few jokes and there's a couple of breaks, but I did find it to be pretty boring. And then the other people on my course, they kind of like, they came from all different backgrounds, but in my group there was like a hospital psychologist, there was like a couple of people who had like non-English speaking backgrounds, and I guess they just wanted to do this course so they could become English teachers themselves, and they were friendly and whatever. And there was a couple of older people as well. There was a retired window cleaner guy. He was a pretty interesting guy. He was a nice guy. He was like, I think his father was Japanese. He came from that kind of background, and it was pretty cool. And we got to know each other. But when it came to the teaching side of things, I had a lot of trouble, and I nearly failed actually. They made me submit all of my materials, sent them all to England, and I had to wait to get my result. And then some moderator in England, I don't know, it just seemed like it seemed to be something out of a movie, like just that my materials had to go to England, and I just played this like really like patriotic game because I knew it could go to England. So they told me, they gave me a warning. They sort of said like, in the worst case scenario, we'll have to send all of your materials to England. So I just had like these images of like Pall Mall with like all these Union Jacks and stuff. So and I made a huge effort. Like I had color photos and all of these different materials, stuff I've never done in real life. But I did all of this work. Now, who are my teachers? The teachers that you have, if you do the CELTA course, there will often be teachers who have taught for a long time either in Japan or the Middle East or in Spain, these kinds of countries. They're not generally teachers who've spent a long time in China or in Southeast Asia. Occasionally, I have heard actually that there's a couple of teachers who have taught in Thailand for a long time, and they're doing the training, solo trainings in Melbourne actually. But when I did it, and I think generally you could say that these people are going to be coming from the Japanese context, or they're coming from the Middle Eastern context. So those foreigners, they get influenced by that sort of by that culture. And I guess, not to denigrate Japan or whatever, but there's this emphasis, I guess, on like huge amounts of work and showing that you've made enormous efforts, even if the result is kind of like, about the same as what a normal is the wrong word, a non-Japanese person would produce. I hope this video doesn't sound like anti-Japanese or something. It's just, yeah. And the other trainees, they give you grades, like they kind of assess you and you assess each other. And I was really polite, and I didn't want to upset or offend any of these people who came from non-English speaking backgrounds. There was a couple of these people on my course, and there are a few. And then some of the other individuals, a lot of them had these, I guess, sensitive like no-go areas where you had to be careful about what you said around them and so on. So I was kind of like the only, I guess, what would you say? I was the only like straight male, white male, or something like that from an English-speaking background on the course. So I felt like I was treading on eggshells, And so I didn't want to offend anybody. And the teachers basically said to me, "Look, you've got to criticize someone. You've got to, not insult, but you've got to like give someone some criticism." And I was like, "Okay, well, I don't really want to do that, but I did it in the end, and I had to." But they were criticizing me, so I sort of felt like, well, okay, I'll criticize you. And they gave some pretty harsh critiques of me, actually. Yeah. And as I said, I had a couple of meetings. They said to me, "Look, you're very close to failing," because they weren't happy with my lesson, with my teaching performance. And but some of these people were doing this course just out of interest. I mean, they weren't intending to go and teach English overseas. They were just doing it as I guess, something to do. Like they weren't really needing to do it. Like I was basically needing to do it because at the time that I did it, I wasn't working full time, and I just needed a job. Like I just needed to start working, and if I had to go overseas to start working, that's what I had to do. So there was a lot of pressure on me to do it. And then I paid my money. Like I paid, my money. It wasn't like I got money just from Centrelink or from a mom or something like that. It was like my money. So I really did want to succeed. I really did want to pass, and I'm so glad that I did pass. And I remember riding my bicycle to get my certificate and just being like so relieved, But is the CELTA worth it? I think it is worth it because when you apply for jobs in China or you apply for jobs in Korea or Japan or whatever, it's definitely like taken more seriously than an online TEFL course. But also, having said that, like once you've got experience, once you've actually got a job, once you've got your first job, whether you've got a TEFL or whether you've got a CELTA or whether you've got an online TEFL or whatever, I mean, it just doesn't matter. Even if you don't have one, I mean, it just doesn't matter. Like I didn't actually need one, actually. But it just makes it so much easier, especially if you're applying for government programs. Like my first job was teaching in government high schools in Korea, so that's kind of like they just tick the box, like, oh, okay, this guy has a CELTA course, like, okay, he understands something about teaching English. And then obviously, like, if you want to go off and do the Delta, and I've done some of the study towards that, you need the CELTA. But I feel like, yeah, overall, the CELTA was unnecessarily punishing, I think, towards me, and I did feel a little bit singled out. So, yeah. But if you do have that experience, you just have to sort of, and this was my view. There's two roads. One road leads to like getting the certificate, getting a job, whatever. The other road leads to like basically nowhere, like you've lost money. So yeah, that's my view of the CELTA, and yeah, I'm very, very proud that I got it. It's just a pass. Like I thought I could get a pass A. I thought I could get a pass B, but I just got a pass. And I'm very, 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 very sure that I've used my CELTA a lot more than anybody else on my course. But okay, that's that. And yeah, whatever you decide to do, just enjoy it, and good luck.